Emmeline, thank you so much for the introduction, and a big thank you to everybody for taking the time to join me today to talk about boosting your well-being with technology. So a little bit about me before we get started. My name is Anita, and I'm a psychologist and counselor by training. I am currently the co-founder at MindFi, and MindFi is a company that's in the mental health technology space. I'm also a co-founder at the Brass Bar, which is a dance studio that focuses on promoting empowerment and body positivity for women. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about MindFi and also share a QR code with you so that you can give it a try. So if you scan the QR code, you'll get 3 months of free premium access. So feel free to use it. MindFi is predominantly in the corporate mental health space, though we do have a B2C version of our app. And we support corporate clients in 14 countries across Asia Pacific. Our goal is to make mental health support affordable and accessible for everybody. And we do this through a lot of self-care resources available in our app, and also through having live events in our app. So we've got a lot of such webinars and talks in our app. We've got videos, we've got meditations in our app. And we also have one-on-one counseling and coaching services available that can be booked through our app. So let's get started. This is the outline of what we'll be discussing today. We're going to talk about what mental health is. We'll be discussing mental health then, which is like pre-mental health tech, and mental health now. We'll be talking about how mental health can support you. And we'll also be discussing tech versus humans. What can technology do? And when do we need humans? And can technology really replace humans in a field that is so typically and traditionally human-centric? So Emmeline mentioned earlier, there's a Q&A box. Along the way, if you have any questions, you can pop them into the Q&A box and I'll answer it at the end. And I also have a whole bunch of interactive slides so that we can share thoughts and ideas along the way. So I've got my first slide for you. How's everybody feeling today? Let's do a quick pulse check. You can go to menti.com and key in the code, or you can use this QR code. Just type in 2 words to share how you're feeling today. Good, fine, sleepy, tired, happy. So the words that are bigger and in the center are the words that more people are typing. So it's really good. Most of us are happy and good. We've also got some more challenging emotions, like being anxious, being tired, still looking for a job. We've got some really positive ones: fantastic, energized, grateful, holiday mood. All right, the responses are coming in. So we're going to have emotions that are really positive, like happy, good, grateful, that are standing out. And then there are also going to be emotions that are a little bit more challenging, like low energy, anxious, what else? Uninterested, nervous. So there are also going to be challenging emotions. So one of the things we'll be discussing today is when we experience challenging emotions, at what point is that part of our normal mental health? Because it is normal to experience difficult emotions from time to time. And at what point is it an indication that we have poor mental health and we should seek support or we're struggling? So thank you so much to everybody, to all 32 people who popped in their responses. Now, one more question for you before we get to the session proper. What does mental health mean to you? So if you haven't scanned the QR code just now, you can scan it now. Otherwise, you can just tap along to the next slide on the phone. Self-care, resilience, really good answers. Sound mind, being in a happy state, content, stressful, feeling good about yourself, ability to control your emotions, sanity, happy, feeling at peace, wellness, caring for my mind, well-being, being able to control your emotions well and act positively to negative solutions, important, personal well-being, logical, peace, manage stress, mindset, overall wellness, a lot of wellness, happiness, being at peace. Yep, these are all really great answers. Calm, knowing yourself, being happy, at peace with yourself, managing your mind. So I'm going to share with you a little bit of a definition about mental health. Now, mental health is more than the absence of mental disorders. So it's not about not being stressed, anxious, depressed. Yes, that's part of it, but it's about not struggling with these challenges, but also achieving a state of well-being. We want to be happy. We want to thrive. We want to have good relationships. We want to feel like we have the ability to excel at what we do. So it's about really trying to flourish. There are many things that influence our mental health, and socioeconomic factors, biological factors, environmental factors all contribute. And I think one quote that most of you might have heard before, there is no health without mental health. We'll take a quick look at the World Health Organization's definition of mental health. Mental health is a state of well-being in which an individual realizes his or her own abilities, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively, and is able to make a contribution to his or her community. So again, it's very much about being able to thrive, being able to flourish. So we're going to play a little game of mental health, truth or myth. And my first question for you is, good mental health means being happy all the time. So what answers do we have? Most of us are putting myth. We have a few truths. All right. We've got 6 truths, 34 myths. And the answer is myth. So good mental health is not about being happy all the time. It's actually very normal to have difficult and challenging emotions. So assuming we lose a person who's very close to us, that's a natural and normal part of life. And experiencing sadness, experiencing grief, experiencing some anger towards it is a perfectly normal reaction to it. It doesn't mean that we have poor mental health. So challenging emotions and poor mental health don't necessarily equate to each other. Okay, next one. Mental health challenges are very rare. All right, again, mostly myths with a few truths. And the answer is 1 in 4 people are affected by mental or neurological problems at some point in their lives. So when I say mental, this could be, clinical depression, anxiety. When I say neurological, this could mean things like autism, ADHD, and it's actually very, very common. We've got about 166 people in the room So that's about 40 of us who have experienced mental health challenges. So know that you are not alone. I'm going to put my hand up and share that I have experienced both depression and anxiety at various points in my life. All right, next one. Only adults struggle with their mental health. All right, everybody's going with myth. And yes, it is a myth. Many mental health issues begin before the age of 14. And in fact, in children, you can see signs of depression, anxiety fairly early on. All right, one last question for you. Mental health issues are all in the head. All right, so we're at about 25% voting for truth, 75% voting for myth. And the answer, yet again, is myth. Many mental health challenges have a physiological component to it. So just to give you an example, if you experience anxiety, there is a physiological component to it. Your heart rate speeds up, your muscles tense up, your gut is less active, so you might experience stomach problems. So there's a physiological component to it. Now, because you struggle with anxiety, it's very likely that your sleep is impacted. You might have trouble falling asleep, your sleep quality might not be very good. You might wake up due to, all your worries, and that poor sleep quality affects your immune system. So many mental health challenges actually have a physiological component to it. And in recent years, there has been a wave of therapy that's quite popular. It's called body-based therapy, also known as somatic therapy. And this form of therapy is focused on easing the physiological signs of the mental health challenge, rather than focusing on what's going on in your head. So traditionally, about 10 years ago, it was very much cognitive types of therapy. So you're trying to think about your problem, you're trying to change your thoughts, you're trying to reframe your thoughts to, help relieve this anxiety. With body-based therapy, you don't dive so much into your thoughts. You start by your body. How can you let go of that tension? How can you let go of that stress? How can you bring your body back to a place that feels safe and feels neutral? And only after you're able to regulate your body and be in a safe and calm place do you start to intellectualize it. Okay. So when we've got positive mental health, we're able to live to our full potential, cope with the stresses of life, have meaningful relationships, work productively, and live a healthy life. The converse is also true. If our mental health is not good, we're not able to do these things. And so it's just so crucial that we take care of our mental health. Now we're going to move on to the second section, mental health then and now. This is the exciting part. We get to start to talk about mental health tech. So I think this is, the common image that comes to mind when we think of therapy. We think of Freud lying down on the couch, talking about your problems. But now with mental health tech, there are a lot of different options, and there are a lot of things that you can do on your own without having to go and book a session with a therapist. So we've got meditations with headbands. There's a Muse headband. There's this headband as well. And basically you can meditate and the headband scans your brain waves. And there are certain brain waves that bring you into a state of deeper relaxation. So if you have a lot of stress, if you have a lot of anxiety, if you have a lot of anger and you kind of want to rewire your brain to be more calm, to be more relaxed, to be less reactive, you can actually meditate and use this headband for, direct feedback. So you can see how effective it is. You can see what's going on. It's very cool. Then we have wearables. So I think this is an Apple Watch, that Apple Watches, that Garmin's. My wearable of choice is the Aura Ring. And you have wearables that can track a lot of your data. And like I mentioned before, there's a physiological component to your mental health. So some of these wearables, like for example, the Fitbit, is actually able to measure your stress levels based on what you secrete in your sweat. So it's quite interesting. I personally like to look at my heart rate variability and use that as a measure because that's linked to my overall stress and anxiety levels. So it's very interesting to see how wearable technology is connecting with mental health, and we're using that to try and, discover how we can use the physiological aspect to understand our mental health better. Okay, next one, live chat as well as chatbots. So this screenshot is from a chatbot called Robot, and you can actually chat with somebody. So if you aren't very comfortable talking to a stranger, maybe you feel like you don't have somebody to talk to, you can just chat and communicate with somebody and get some support. So this screenshot is a chatbot, and there are more and more of those available, and chatbots can be pretty good these days. And there are also some that are staffed by live humans. Then what else do we have? We also have audio tracks. So a lot of meditations, a lot of mindfulness exercises can just be done, with a pair of earphones. You can listen to it as you get ready for work. You can listen to it, as a quick break. So you can listen to it when you're on the move. It's very quick and easy. And then we also have, that's me over there. We also have teletherapy. So if you want to see a therapist, but you're a bit self-conscious about going to a clinic, or it's just more convenient to do it from home, or maybe you have a very specific problem and it's hard to find somebody who lives whose office is somewhere convenient to help support you with this issue, you can just go online, browse a list of providers and book in your session. So those are some of the types of mental health technology that's available. And so my question to you is, have you tried mental health technology? And if so, pop it in. Which ones of these have you tried? So I think wearables is the most common. Chatbots, mental health apps, others, teletherapy. All right. Now, my next question is going to be on how has your experience with it been? So for those of you who've put in others, I would love to share what these others are, like what you've been trying and is it working for you? So let's just go ahead, do a quick sharing. How has the experience of mental health technology been for you? Good. Have not tried any? Helpful so far? Helpful? Okay, that's really positive feedback. Very bad. Oh dear. I would love it if you could actually elaborate. I'm always curious about everybody's experiences, so I know how we can make MindFi better. Unsure, fun and interesting, more awareness, on and off. Didn't solve issue with chatbot. Yeah, chatbots are getting better, but they can be, it can be hard sometimes. It's always easier to chat with the real human. And even with the human, sometimes you need, more extensive conversations to really dive into what's going on. Surprisingly smooth process so far. Not really working as there's no personal touch, something new and interactive. Great to understand how peaceful and calm I'm sleeping. Good, awful. Whole range. So this is really interesting seeing these responses, because we can chat a little bit more about it at the end when we talk about tech versus humans. There are some things that tech's really good at. For example, great to understand how peaceful you are, how calm you're sleeping. And then there's some things that tech just can't replicate, like the personal touch. So thank you all for sharing. Time for section 3, how mental health tech can support you. So there are 2 typical ways to begin your mental health tech journey. One way is if you already know what you want, you already know what your goals are, what you're trying to do, trying to improve, trying to work on. And the other way is to let the app help to kind of diagnose you or give you direction on some areas that you would want to focus on. So one of the ways the app might do that is through giving you a well-being questionnaire. So we're going to do this together. We're going to do this well-being check-in. So we have this in the app as well, in the MindFi app. So you can scan the QR code and try it out there. It's not exclusive to us. There are quite a few apps that use this well-being questionnaire because it comes from the World Health Organization's Well-being Index. So you can do it in the app. It'll be part of the onboarding process, or you can simply slide the sliders here. So I'll just talk a little bit more about this questionnaire while you guys play around with it. You'll see that there are 6 questions, and each of the questions address one pillar of well-being. So on the app, based on looking at these 6 questions, we'll get a sense of which pillars of well-being you're doing well on and which pillars of well-being could use a little bit more focus. Now, collectively, these questions can be scored, and it can also measure your overall well-being results. So we are able to break it into 3 categories: positive well-being, at risk, and likely to be experiencing depression. So even though it's very simple, you can actually do a pretty good assessment for something with only 6 questions. So these are the average scores of everybody who's done this. And it looks like the 2 areas that have the highest scores, I have felt calm and relaxed. So that actually measures what we call your mental well-being. And my daily life has been filled with things that interest me. And that's what we call your spiritual well-being. Now, the lowest score is the pink one. I woke up feeling refreshed and rested. And that's the sleep score. So a lot of us are maybe not doing so well in the sleep area. So let's take a closer look at what these 6 pillars of well-being are about. So here are the 6 pillars: mental, social, spiritual, emotional, sleep, and physical. Sleep is kind of a subset of physical, but we measure sleep separately because through integration with wearables, we can get very precise data on sleep. So we also look at sleep. So a quick definition of each. Mental well-being is about our ability to handle stress and challenges. Do we feel calm and relaxed most of the time? Or are we always worried, always angry, always fearful, always sad? Now, social well-being is about our social interactions. Do we have meaningful and positive interactions? And do you have healthy relationships and a support system? Are you satisfied with your relationships and your social interactions? Then we move on to spiritual well-being. So this is not related to religion, but it can be related to religion if you are religious. It's more about having a sense of purpose in life and finding meaning in what you do. Then we've got our emotional well-being. So are we able to manage and navigate our emotions? Are we even able to recognize and identify our emotions? Are we connected to them? And then are we experiencing positive emotions? Are we experiencing joy, happiness, all the good feelings? Okay, so I mentioned sleep and physical are connected. So are you taking care of your physical health? Are you getting adequate sleep, rest, hydration, nutrition, exercise? So these are the 6 areas that we dive into. So typically in a mental health app, it will help you track your well-being. So here's an example of what it might look like. It might graph it. So this is your overall well-being score graphed over time. And as I mentioned earlier, you can band it. So if you have above a 49, you have positive well-being. It turns red if you are in the low zones. And based on your well-being score, we're able to offer personalized recommendations. So it could be counseling or coaching. It could be self-care resources. That could be audio or video content, otherwise articles. And this is just a general well-being assessment. There are a whole range of assessment tools. So you can do assessments based on what you specifically want to work on. So for example, if you have anxiety, you might want to do an anxiety assessment, and that would be the GAD-7. These are all real tools that we use in the world of psychology to assess clients. If you want to measure your resilience levels, if these are something you want to improve, you could do the BRS-6, the Brief Resilience Scale. And based on that, most apps will be able to give you a report of how your levels are and give you recommendations on how you can work towards your goals. So that's the first way, getting the app to help you do a little bit of a diagnosis. The other way is the app simply asks you, what are your goals? So let's just, vote on some of our goals. These are some of the more common goals, and you'll see that I actually tied them to each of the well-being pillars. I've put in one goal for each pillar. So if you can go ahead and share what your goals are. So it's quite interesting to see these, because earlier when we were looking at the well-being quiz, we saw that the section with the lowest score was actually sleep. A lot of us were struggling with our sleep. And so when we look at the goals, you can see that the top 2 goals are improving sleep and get fit and feel good, and feeling good is also connected to our sleep. So very, very much connected. And when we looked at our top areas, where we had the highest scores, it was mental well-being and spiritual well-being. So you can see that spiritual well-being, finding purpose, is actually the one that the least people have put as a goal. So I take that as a sign that a lot of us are already able to find purpose. All right. So now that we have a sense of what some of our goals are, we're going to dive into each of these goals and look at how mental health technology can help support us with these specific goals. So goal number 1 is improve sleep. So 3 ways mental health tech can help you improve your sleep. You can use a wearable to track your sleep. So for example, the Oura Ring is my personal favorite sleep tracker. It tracks your sleep. It gives you feedback on, what areas you need to work on. For example, for me, it's usually the timing of my sleep. It tells me how long I take to fall asleep, and it gives me a lot of really useful information. And with this feedback, I can actually tweak my routine. I can tweak my habits to improve my sleep. So I really like it because it gives me immediate and quantifiable feedback. Then we've got self-care. So these are meditations. So there are meditations that can help guide you to relax your body, to prepare for bed. So you can do self-care exercises to help you fall asleep, to help you sleep better. In addition to meditations, you can also find mental health tech with breathing exercises. So breath work is quite powerful, and different types of breathing practices can help you relax. They can help you improve focus. They can help you fall asleep. So there's a specific type of breathing. It's called 4-7-8. You inhale for 4 counts, you hold for 7 counts, and then you exhale for 8 counts. And that helps your body to prepare for sleep. It helps you to fall asleep. Or you could simply find a sleep coach to work with you, to help you figure out what specific solutions will help you manage your specific sleep-related challenges. Okay, so these are 3 ways that mental health tech can help you improve your sleep. Let's take a look at goal number 2, build better relationships. So you can learn. So there are a lot of apps that have articles on building better relationships. I'm sorry, I put learn for self-care, but then I forgot to find something specific to building better relationships. But there are a lot of articles out there on building better relationships on the various apps. This is a screenshot from Mindline. And then under discuss, I've got a screenshot from MindFi, and we actually have forums available in the app. So you can kind of post your thoughts, post your comments, interact with other people, discuss with people who have the same interests and challenges as you. And we also have therapists and coaches on the platform who actually respond and get involved in the discussions as well. So you can be a part of a community to discuss these things, or you can simply book a relationship coach or relationship counselor. All right. Goal number 3, manage stress. So meditations and mindfulness are very good for stress management. You can use a chat function, so a chatbot or a human-powered chat as well, or you can get a counselor and coach to help you with managing your stress. Goal number 4, get fit and feel good. So again, wearables are a great way to track your fitness. Nowadays, there are a lot of apps that have workout routines. You can customize it based on the duration, based on the equipment you have, based on your intensity level that you wish to do. Or you can get a nutritionist, or you can get a personal trainer virtually as well. And one more goal here. Find purpose. So you could do guided journaling. There are a lot of great guided journals that give good prompts and guide you along, so you can do some guided reflections. So this screenshot is from an app called Jour, J-O-U-R, and they've got a really great selection of guided journalings that you can do to understand yourself a little bit better. You can join communities. So even though it's mental health tech, MindFi, as well as quite a few other online or tech platforms, have like meetup sessions where you can actually form discussion groups with people with similar interests. So you can also join communities to chat about various things, or you can have a life coach who can help you with this. So did you see any mental health tech that caught your eye, that was interesting to you, with that you'd like to try? Yes, Aura Ring. I have an Aura Ring and I really love it. Sleep tracker, fitness app. Wish there were more options. App to manage stress. Not yet. Lumi Health, yeah. I think Lumi Health is one of the ones that's really well designed. It's also got a very nice interface, so it feels like it's quite delightful to use. And you can actually earn points and get some cash back through it. Headband. So the headband is actually Muse, M-U-S-E. So you can, I think it's maybe like 200 plus, if I'm not wrong. And you can, it comes with meditations. You can listen to it. You can measure your brain waves. My Fitness Pal, I've heard of it, but I don't use it. Yeah, thank you for sharing. All right, so down to our last section, tech versus humans. So mental health tech is not trying to replace humans. I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions about it, because in a lot of industries, tech has come in and, replaced humans in a lot of ways. But psychology, mental health has traditionally been an industry that's about human connection. So we are actually not trying to replace humans, and let me explain why and how. So mental health tech aims to connect users and therapists more efficiently and effectively. So if any of you have, booked a therapy session prior to COVID, you would have found yourself going online, browsing through a lot of different private practices. And then for each one, you'll be reading the therapist profile, or maybe you'll be searching for somebody who specializes in your specific area, but you might find that, hey, there isn't anybody in, let's say, Singapore, if it's something very niche. So mental health tech helps us to match with a therapist more easily. So because we bring together large groups of therapists into one network, you can simply input what language you'd like to have your session in, what topic you want to talk about, and you would get a full selection of therapists who specialize in that topic to choose from. And so even if there isn't somebody in your country who deals with this topic, and this is entirely possible with some of the more niche topics, you are able to connect virtually with, somebody who's an expert in that wherever in the world they are. So it helps to connect users and therapists very efficiently. And even though it's primarily done via video chat, a lot of mental health technology does allow you to book face-to-face sessions with therapists, and the technology is just about helping to connect people. Now in Singapore, everything is easy and convenient and accessible. But when you look at other countries, especially more rural countries or countries that have a less developed mental health system, they might not have somebody, a therapist living near them. So being able to connect virtually is a big help. Even in Singapore, if somebody is not well, maybe they're bedbound and unable to leave their house, they're able to have their therapy from the comfort of their home. So we try to use tech to connect people. Now, another way that mental health tech is working with humans rather than against humans is that it makes mental health care a lot more affordable. So seeing a therapist is a one-to-one interaction, and there simply aren't enough therapists to go around. So especially in Asia, there is quite a shortage of mental health professionals. So if everybody out there who wanted mental health booked therapy sessions for themselves, there just wouldn't be enough therapists to go around. Even now, sometimes there can be quite a wait list to book a session with a therapist. So self-care comes in, and self-care helps to fill that gap. So for people who had mental health, perhaps questions, they're not severe challenges, or who need a little bit of mental health support, but don't feel ready to book a session, they can actually use some mental health self-care to understand themselves better, to take care of themselves a little bit. So it's a great tool to help to make up for that shortfall of humans that exist. And it's also very affordable, very accessible. So the cost of therapy is very high because it's a one-to-one experience, but mental health self-care is very scalable, and it makes therapy accessible to everybody. It's also a great stepping stone for people who are a little bit shy and uncomfortable opening up to somebody new. So we try and work to support the greater mental health ecosystem without taking away from that one-to-one therapy-based human experience. Now, there are certain points where mental health technology just isn't enough and you just need a human. So this could be virtually or in person. But the two key things we take into consideration when we consider whether or not, you have a mental health challenge and you really need help. One is if you've been experiencing your anxiety, your stress, your low mood, whatever challenge it is for about 2 weeks and it won't go away. That's kind of the time frame that we use as a benchmark for, hey, it's time to seek professional support. And the other benchmark is it interfering with your daily functioning? Is it interfering with your job? Is it interfering with your relationships? Are you avoiding all the things you used to do because you can't drag yourself out of bed? So if it's starting to interfere with your daily functioning, please go ahead and book some support with a mental health professional. Now, on that note, you don't have to be struggling to see a professional. You don't need to, be struggling to complete your task, be really down for 2 weeks to book a session. You can see a mental health professional at any time. So even if it's just to plan ahead. So perhaps you're a new mother who's returning to the workforce and you are anticipating challenges, you can see a mental health professional who can help you preemptively plan for some of the challenges that you might face so that you can get through them more smoothly. And nowadays, with mental health being very much about thriving and flourishing, coaching has also become something that is getting increasingly popular. So coaching professionals are also individuals that you can speak to and that you can see so that you can focus on performance, you can focus on thriving. So it's not just limited to challenges, it's also about upwards, about well-being, about thriving, about doing well. And so that's it. I've come to the end of my presentation and I would love to take questions from you. So let me just go through the questions in the Q&A box. If you have any questions for me, you can go ahead and pop it in as well. I'll do my best to answer all of them. So let's see. First question is, what kind of qualifications or certifications do you need to provide mental teletherapy? That's a really great question. Mental health is not regulated in Singapore, and it's actually not regulated in most of Asia. So we are not required to register with a licensing board, but typically what the traditional benchmark is a minimum of a master's degree in psychology or counseling if you work freelance, or if you run your own practice, or if you work as part of a group practice, then you can practice with like a bachelor's, or you can be in the midst of your master's as long as you have what we call a supervisor. So somebody whom you can turn to discuss any challenges you face with your case. So those are kind of what the best practices are. But if you are planning to look for a therapist, I would recommend finding somebody with a master's degree in psychology or counseling. So I hope that answers your question. Let's see. What else do we have? Is counseling expensive? Counseling is typically pretty expensive because it's the time of somebody who has gone through extensive training. So it's typically pretty expensive. However, there are many ways to get affordable counseling. So many companies have what we call an EAP program, an employee assistance program. And so many companies will actually provide free counseling for their employees. It's something that is not always publicized very highly, but if you go into your company portal or your company intranet and search for EAP, a lot of companies do have this available. A big concern for most people is this confidential, or will my employer know that I used it? And at MindFi is a provider of corporate EAP. I assure you that we keep everything confidential. We do not tell the organization which employees are using it. We simply let them know how many sessions are utilized, but we don't give them any details beyond that. So that's if your company has a corporate EAP program. There are other ways to get subsidized counseling. You can actually look online. There are various groups. It could be like church group related, or it could be groups organized for different ethnicities that offer cheaper or subsidized counseling. So you can feel free to search for it online. It's available. Okay, let's see. Next question. I'm getting certified by ICF. I'll be happy to be a coach. I have a proprietary coaching model called situational coaching. I need clients. Fees can be pro bono to any value exchange. Actually, that's a great thing that came up to answer the earlier question about the rates of counseling. So if you get somebody who is fully qualified, meaning they've completed their master's or their PhD on it, they are pretty pricey unless you go through an organization that helps to subsidize it. However, there are many counselors out there who are in the midst of getting their master's degree, so they haven't fully finished the qualifications, and they offer pro bono or very, very low rate counseling. So if you can actually get connected to them, you'll get probably free counseling. And even though they are less experienced, they work very closely with a supervisor to discuss the case to make sure they're on the right track. So that's also something you can look out for. Okay, next question. Can you give us a breakdown of these various apps that are used for the different goals and where to download them? So many of them. So let's see. So in Singapore, our government has done a really great job at creating some apps to promote mental health in Singapore. So the two that I'd like to recommend are Mindline, MINDLINE, as well as Lumi Health. So you can actually use these two apps to get your self-care resources, to help you build healthy habits, to book sessions and chat with people. In terms of apps that are built by private companies such as MindFi, there are a lot of them out there. It depends on what you are interested in. So if you are looking for a chatbot, you can use Wobot. If you are looking for a journaling app, you can use Draw. If you are looking for meditations, you can use MindFi. You can also use Headspace. You can use Calm. So many different apps out there, depending on your preferred mode of receiving support. All right. Are there any other questions for me? Do you know of any counselors who can speak Vietnamese? Good question. So on the MindFi app, we do have Vietnamese counselors. However, this function is only open to our corporate clients. It's not open to the public. I would recommend looking on, so perhaps BetterHelp might be a good app to look at. They have probably the biggest network of counselors that is done through technology. So you can search there and find somebody who's Vietnamese speaking. Alternatively, you can actually search for a counselor who is in Vietnam and have the sessions done remotely with them. So this applies for, any other language. In Singapore itself, it might be hard to find, but with technology, you can do teletherapy with somebody in Vietnam. Okay. Are there subsidies for single parent PRs? I think most of the places that provide subsidized counseling are kind of nonprofits, so they're typically not so it's not a governmental organization, so I think their requirements can be a little bit more relaxed.